All right, so that time of a day and week and time and whatever you want to call it as I stumble through opening up to bring on Michael-Shawn Dugar, the Dugar Report. Of course, Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic. Of course, also co-host of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast with some guy named Christopher Kidd. You can't call him Chris Kidd. You have to call him Christopher. Now, on the podcast, do you call him Chris or Christopher?
I introduced myself first, and then I let him do his thing. And then he refers to himself as Christopher, but I just call him Chris. I've never called him Christopher. He's never asked me to. I'm very big on if someone asks me to call them something, that's a variation of their name. Like, don't ask me to call you like Slick or like something like that, or Slim, or something that's just you think is cool. But if you just ask me to call you a variation of your name, then yeah, I'll follow what you say.
He asked me one time. He said, "I prefer you if you call me Christopher." Because his parents wanted him that. His parents can you? I think it was his mom or his dad. I think
his mom is very adamant about that.
Yeah, she's very adamant. Can you get them to stop calling you Chris? I didn't name you Chris. I named you Christopher.
Yeah, you're right. It's the mom. Which I'll acknowledge. Like I'm a lot more flexible with my name stuff. People call me all types of different stuff. No one really calls me Michael-Shawn though. That's pretty.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike or Michael. My grandma calls me Michael. Sometimes my mom will too, because my dad's name is Michael. So yeah, I'm pretty flexible though. At The Athletic, actually, this is where people started calling me MSD. That just started working here, and like the last few years too. I think Jason Jenks, shout out to Jenks, might have started that.
First of all, where is he at?
I have no idea.
Off the face of the earth. What happened to that guy?
I have no idea where Jenks is. I saw him at the combine. This is the NFL scouting combine. I think last year we do like an NFL summit where all the writers and editors show up. So I see him at that. That's where I last saw Steve Cohen too. Shout out to Steve. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. He's reachable. Both of them.
Does he work at The Athletic?
Yeah, no. He just had a story like a couple weeks ago on if you saw NFL teams posting about how much peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Uncrustables that they eat. That was a Jenks story. Yeah, that's of course a Jenks story. Yeah, I think the Seahawks were like the number 2 team in like Uncrustables eaten. I'm pretty sure behind the Broncos.
Who doesn't like peanut butter and jelly?
There were some teams that were towards the bottom. We had a whole chart and graphic and everything. Yeah, we put some effort into promoting that joint too. Yeah, it was good.
All right, okay.
He also has one about orange slices and guys pooping their pants during games.
Well, you know what's funny? Your orange slices. We're gonna get to the Seahawks in a second, okay? I was watching as the halftime of this week's Monday night game, Broncos and Browns. The Browns were coming off. They had a camera in the hallway, and they were grabbing something as they were going in. And I was wondering, are they having orange slices? Like this is when you were playing youth soccer, and the mom would bring the orange slices. They're still 100%.
Yeah, that's what I think. Jenks had a story about that. I want to say
funny. Okay,
a couple of years ago. I mean, you guys can Google it, but the reason I know that because he texted me once and was like, "Hey, can you?" He wanted me to ask a player about orange slices or something like that. That's how I know behind the scenes there. That's how I know Jenks is alive when he asked me just randomly via text for a thing. Just, hey, can you ask such and such about this random thing? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then we go from there.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into the Seahawks. I think they're 7-5, first place in the NFC West. They got the rematch coming up here with Arizona on Sunday. To me, Mike, this is like the win against New York, but then where they're at right now is like the perfect sports media, like storm, hurricane, all of it, because the good is that they're 7-5 in first place, and I don't know how many people thought they would be here, especially a few weeks ago. I know I didn't. But even though that they're 7-5 in first place, and they can kind of control their own destiny here to win the division, there's still so much to bitch about the football team. And that's what makes this the greatest team to cover, because they're good, playoff caliber, good probably, but then still you got people, we need to fire everyone. Get rid of all these people. And that I'm here for it. Because here's the thing. You've been in this long enough. You've done a lot of like sports radio too. You never just want to be in the middle. You don't want to be 8-8. You don't want to be 9-8. You either want to be really good or really shitty, because it's just that you can't have it in the middle. How do you view them right now after 12 games, sitting there at 7-5?
Yeah, my story selection choice this week is probably a window into how I'm viewing that. Like I had an option, me and my editor were talking about it. We were like, should we write about Kobe Bryant or we write about how they need to be better in the short yardage situations on offense, right? Which kind of goes to which exactly you're talking about. Like you could look at it like, oh, they're doing great. Like Kobe's playing well. Obviously Leo and J Love and some other guys are as well. But I was like, specifically, I had some stuff on Kobe or short yardage stuff, which is an issue. That's like the glass half empty view. Like, hey, they won, but here's this thing to complain about. And I decided to go with the short yardage thing. It's not done yet, but that's kind of how I'm looking at them. And I don't need the coach to necessarily tell me what to write or give me the green light per se, but I bring him up because Mike Macdonald is very much process over results. Obviously, he's in a results-based business largely. You either won the game or you didn't. But that's kind of like at the end of the year when you're in it, everyone can definitely feel whether how you're winning is sustainable. And that's where not even nitpicking, that's where being critical comes in, and that's why when I watched the tape of the Seahawks game over the Jets, I was like, oh, this short yardage stuff is an issue, and it still is an issue post bye week. And one of the things that I'm going to mention in the story I'm writing is it's not just that it's important, it's that every game has pretty much come down to that, in one way or the other. You look at their Rams game, they couldn't get a yard in overtime, so you lose, and you come real close to losing to the Niners there because Geno can't get a sneak and Zach can't get a yard. Thankfully the Niners are just in the middle of they're in the beginning of implosion. We didn't know it at the time, but now we know that they're just going the wrong way. And then the Cardinals game, I forget, there was a short yardage situation they didn't get in that too. And then you have the Jets game where they just got to the goal line and threw up on themselves. But how do they win that game? On a 3rd and 1, so many of their games are coming down to these instances. And you even look, oh, that's what it was in the Cardinals game. It was the flip side, but they had a 4th and 1. They stopped the Cardinals and they get the timeout. Then the 4th and 1 turns into a pick 6, on the other way. Like short yardage is so critical, and you just can see it in these last few weeks. That's why they're 7-5, because they've come out on the right end of some of these or overcome not getting them in some cases, So I'm generally optimistic about the short term. I think they can win on Sunday, but I can guarantee that Mike Macdonald and Ryan Grubb and all of those guys, are looking at the offense and some of that stuff on the red zone, goal line, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, whatever, and being like, if we don't get better, this is going to be a problem. Or they're looking at it perhaps this way, which is what Oluwatimi told me earlier this week was, if we get better, we'll be great. Like we're good right now, but we can be great if we can really put teams away. And I think you can just see it. 2 of the best short yardage teams in the league, I think, are the Lions and Eagles. Well, there you go. 2 best teams in the conference. So I think they're in a good spot, but they're in that dangerous situation where they do kind of have some fatal flaws, and one of them is special teams with their returners. That's tough. And then the other one is not being able to put teams away. They have the 5th worst goal line offense in the league, I think. And you're not going to be a great team like that.
Okay, let's go back to the short yardage stuff. Is it is that a scheme thing, or is that just a player issue, a physicality issue? I don't know. I think when I see teams struggle, and I could be way off on this one, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, to me, that's just about, you just don't have the guys. I mean, to me, it's man on man. You have to be more physical than the other team and push them off the ball to get a yard. It's a yard. I don't know how much you scheme to get a yard or 2 yards. Now, maybe I'm completely wrong on it, but how do you view that?
Yeah, it can depend. Depend on if you get too cute. We see teams like do rollouts and stuff like that and trick play. Not trick plays, but I think the Rams won the Super Bowl in part because they gave it to like Cooper Kupp on a 4th and 1 run against the Bengals. And then I think, Mahomes, they do some of their scheme stuff that's really good. And the Super Bowl, they won with some short yardage stuff. I think a 4th down conversion in overtime was like a Mahomes rollout option type of thing. So the teams that are good at it can generally get it done a few different ways. So being good at it is scheme, I think, a lot of the ways. And depending on how you want to look at something like the tush push, I don't know if you want to count that as scheme per se. But I mean, that is another way to be excellent at it, like the Eagles are. But you're right. When you're bad, it kind of depends. Let's look at the Jets game. It's a great example. In the third quarter, they were just running up the gut on the Jets for a good portion of that third quarter. They ran the same play like 4 times in a row to Ken. And what they were basically doing was getting a hat on hat, guy on guy, and just winning, And so Grubb, when they got down to the goal line, understandably was probably like, oh, we're blocking these guys. Let's just keep doing that. And then it just stopped working. Lakin lost a block. Olu lost a block. Charles lost a block. And then Ken's culpable too in some of these. He chops his feet on short yardage for some reason. Don't know why. Particularly on when it's 1 yard. Like, dude, you're not cutting back on 1 yard. Don't do that. So I think in that particular game, it was the guys. But it was the guys after they had been doing well. So I don't even want to fault like Grubb in that instance, because if I had been watching that third quarter like I was, on film, I'd be like, oh, I'd have just kept running it up the gut too. I wouldn't have done no motions or anything fancy. But I think when you're bad at it for a sustained time, I think it really just does come down to the guys. I think that they're just not consistent enough up front, and it's not always even just man on man like strength. Some of it really is the guys aren't even blocking the right dudes. They've had some instances where guys just come in unblocked. I was rewatching some cut-ups for the story I'm writing. They had a lot of them were just unblocked dude. Even the Jets game, unblocked guys. Maybe that's scheme, maybe that's coaching or whatever, but they have a lot of issues. It's not just one thing. But I guess if you had to whittle it down, probably you just don't got the guys if you're consistently bad at it, I should say.
You may know this. Who is you mentioned the Eagles. Who's the best short yardage team in the NFL? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I do actually. I have that in front of me. So if we were to, that's my story. I have this right now filtered to 3rd and 4th down with 2 or fewer yards to go. So it depends on how you want to define short yardage.
Sure. That's the top. Good. I'll take that.
Yeah, and this is specifically on design runs, so it doesn't count if you do a rollout and your quarterback runs it in. So I wanted to get that out of the sample.
Does this include sneaks? Quarterback sneaks?
Yes, this would include sneaks because those are designed, precise runs.
Run plays, okay.
So if you just go by success rate, it's the Rams, Ravens, and Commanders, Chiefs, Panthers. Those are the top 5. If you look at first down percentage, it's those same teams in a different order with the Rams at the top. Yeah, the Rams also, speaking of the guys, though, the reason that they're up there, they paid a bunch of money for guards this offseason.
Wait, hold on, stop. That's allowed? That's allowed.
Yeah.
You can pay money to guards. That's okay. All right.
And you can draft them high, too. I think one of their guards that's been good is Steve
we only
Avila.
drafted one pretty high here years and years and years ago that was, I don't know, really good. That works for the team now, by the way. Okay, so the Rams, yeah. All right. Well, I just think, when you were describing like the Eagles, right, and the tush push, I don't know what's the scheme there. I mean, I know they came up with a cool little scheme. It's more of a rugby scrum, and it's smart, and it's a cool design. But at the end of the day, you just have, I know Kelsey's not there anymore, but when he was there, you have one of, if not the most physical center in football, number 1. Then number 2, the quarterback, I don't know, he squats like 9,000 pounds. He's a bowling ball. And so I just think we're just more physical. So I wonder when Grubb gets down there, I don't know what you call. How do you scheme up on 3rd and 2? What do you run? I mean, if you want to run, there really are just a handful of running plays. Not like there's some great design. It's you can't get too creative with it. But I mean, maybe you can. But I don't know. I just think it comes down to more about just personnel issues, especially with those guys in the middle.
You can do some misdirection stuff, which they haven't done a ton of. I think Zach scored or Ken scored against the Niners on a kind of like a split flow type of run where you fake one way and then go the other way under center. So you can do it, but Grubb seems to prefer hat on hat. He doesn't get too tricky. Geno's also only like 50% on sneaks this year, so you would think that number would be a little higher. It's not. And I'm taking out that one where he just trips over Connor's foot. I think he'd be 3 of 7 if you counted that, but that's not an actual sneak. So yeah, I mean, you can get actually pretty creative. The Lions are pretty good at that. The Packers have a really diverse run scheme as well. And then I think the Chiefs are really good at like getting Mahomes out, using their gadgety guys. I think they even run the tush push with Kelsey sometimes. I believe I've seen them do.
Yeah.
I think like the Ravens have run it with Mark Andrews. So you don't have to do, I think the Seahawks tried it with DJ Dallas before. So you can tush push with someone who squats a little bit more than your quarterback that also protects your QB too. So there's some scheme stuff. I would call those scheme things because you still have to block it up right, coach it right, rep it right. And it just doesn't look like the Seahawks rep their stuff either well enough or enough, just in terms of raw total to be really, really good. Because like I said, I named you the top 5. The Seahawks, I think, are in the bottom 5 in that same category.
Do you think there's pressure on him, on Ryan Grubb? Pressure on the rest of this season, pressure that this could be a one and done for him?
Oh, I think it depends. There's some contract implications there too. I know sometimes you get assistants that are just on 1-year deals. So whoever you are, there's just pressure, right? There's nothing guaranteed in this league.
But I think assume he's not, right? We assume he's on a multi-year deal?
I don't know. I don't know one way or the other. I wouldn't assume one way or the other based on I haven't asked anyone. I was on paternity leave all off season, so those type of details I didn't dive into.
Well, do you think it's fair? Do you think if it continues to have their struggles, do you think it's fair to be a one and done?
I think everyone.
At least have a conversation.
I think everyone is kind of under that in part because two reasons. One, they have the expectations of competing for a championship, and when you can fall short of that. You can fall well short of that, to be honest. And then you evaluate everyone. And in that case, it's very easy to cut ties with people. 2, Mike Macdonald doesn't know none of these guys. There's no like, oh man, I used to coach with him back in the day, so I got a little bit more loyalty to. No, he kind of knows Grubb, I mean, that can go one of 2 ways with anyone on the staff for the most part. I think outside of maybe like one dude from the Ravens, all of these guys are working with Mike in some capacity for the first time. Maybe not Jay Harbaugh, I think. I'd have to go look. So I think all of those guys are auditioning all year, not just Grubb, but yeah, I do think he is included in that. And I also think he's included in that. This is a bonus third one, I guess. I know I said 2, is he kind of has a job where that's probably the easiest position to find attractive candidates, I would say, in the NFL is like, hey, can you be our OC? Like, because you can kind of pull from anywhere there. And it's a job that like former head coaches will do. Like if you need an O-line coach, that's tough. You know what I mean? Like even if you need a DC, that can get kind of tough too. But if like, hey man, I need an OC. You can like I say, you can get a hotshot college coach that's in the OC. You can also get a hotshot head coach that's in college and pull him. You can get a former head coach to do it too. Like you can get a young buck all the way to someone who's in their 60s or 70s or something that's got experience. The range is so crazy there because it's just such a fun gig. You get to do all the fun stuff, designing an offense and everything, and you don't have the head coach responsibilities, talking to the media, all that stuff. So I think there's a lot of reasons to think that he's totally auditioning for his the future of his gig here.
Is it fair though? I mean, is it? Can you properly evaluate him with? I mean, because the other side of it is that everyone acknowledges how bad the offensive line is. So if your offensive line is bad, how can you properly evaluate the man who's calling the plays, or even the quarterback for that matter?
Oh, tons of ways. Particularly with the OC, how prepared your guys are. I think that's part of it. Like on the flip side of it, you can really see Mike Macdonald is winning the chess match on defense in a lot of ways. Guys are just really prepared for pretty much everything that teams are throwing at them, run, pass, situational, for the most part. Even look at the Jets game. The only way the Jets were really moving the ball was just like it almost looked like Aaron Rodgers was drawing up stuff in the sand. He was like, hey, Devontae, you get this leverage, run a slant. I'm going to throw it to you. They didn't look like design plays at all. It just looked like, hey, Devontae, if you get number 29, just run a go. I'm going to just throw it up, And it was working because Aaron's been working with Devontae like that for years, but it didn't look like they were schemed up. It was like, oh, okay, this is one-on-one, mano-a-mano, glorified 7-on-7, but none of their like regular play calls are working super well outside of the shovel pass on the goal line for a touchdown, which I had never seen them run before, like ever, to that guy. So, and on the flip side, it looks like Grubb's just not winning. You look at like their 4th and goal play, like the Jets were all over that. You know, the little sprint out. You look at the slant to DK that Sauce broke up. Sauce was all over that. I mean, even the play action throw to Noah. Other fourth down stuff that didn't work. Horse collar tackle on Zach that was blown up with or without the horse collar
but
collar
go back
tackle.
to but the Fant one though, that's on the quarterback. That's a badly thrown ball. That's a touchdown.
It should be,
and then no one's complaining.
And
really, hold on, but just to defend him for a second, I mean, and to be critical of the quarterback, it shouldn't even been a red zone situation had he thrown a better pass to DK. That should have been a walk-in touchdown. That was an underthrown ball that he had to go back and get, and then the Fant ball is a bad throw. I mean, again, I'm not trying. It sounds like I'm defending Grubb, and I'm not. I think he's not been as good as I thought. I do think though that goal line situation has really just blown it up to where it's fighting for his job. He may be replaced. Again, I don't know if we're having that. If the quarterback, which I thought was a well-called play, it's a play action under center. He rolled right to the right, and Noah Fant's wide open. And he just throws it almost into the dirt.
So let's pull that play out of the discussion. Go broader to your point about how do you assess a guy if his O-line's back? Because that's a fair question. Because Shane was not retained, even though that he was under very similar circumstances. And one of the reasons that Shane wasn't retained is they were pretty bad situationally. They were bad in the red zone. They were bad third down. That'd get you fired most of the time. They were just really good at 2-minute. It was hard to figure out how much of that you attribute to Shane or Pete. Pete's teams were always good in 2-minute, generally speaking, and the Seahawks are still good in 2-minute without Shane. So there's that. That's one of them. Situational stuff is usually what I go to first. And then how do you blend your concepts? How do you make your runs look like your passes to really have a simple but complex offense? And Grubb so far has been very bad at that. There's a really good example is a throw that Geno made to Jackson, like on the over route. Great ball, tight window, beautiful throw. But watch the guy covering Jackson. He doesn't even think about biting on the play fake there. Like as soon as Geno goes to hand it to Ken, he's like, nope, turn it and running. This is a fake. This is a throw. And part of that, if I had to talk to that dude, I think it's Jamie Sherwood, he'd be like, man, those guys ain't running out of that formation. They never do. They're kind of easy to figure out, like when they're going to run, when they're going to pass. And to Shane's credit, I actually thought he was better at building out, like, all right, this looks like a run, and we've run it out of this situation so many times, but now here's this pass. Shane was willing to get in his heavy personnel, like 13, 3 tight ends, and then get into an motion to an empty formation and throw like a dig route to Will Dissly. Like it doesn't seem like a huge play, but that is when you're talking about the stuff of how you would evaluate an OC, because when you put 3 tight ends on there, what's the other team going to do? Go heavy, thinking you're going to run, and I think Grubb, for some of the cool plays he has, I think that part of it, that chess match, trying to get plays set up so that you can start winning those chess matches. I don't think he's been great at that. And that's why their numbers are just kind of overall down. Like they're right now about as bad as they were. They're worse now than they ever were with Shane Waldron.
Yeah, I was talking this week with Rob Staten and from SeahawksDraftBlog.com, and Rob was saying that, and I'm sure you've the similar numbers in terms of the telegraphing of plays. It's something when they're in the shotgun, it's 75% of the time out of the shotgun they throw, and then I think under center when he goes under center, they only throw 25% of the time. I mean, that is tipping your hand.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, Grubb will probably never admit this, and he may not even be conscious of it, but that's college. The college mindset. It's that you can know what we're doing, but we're better. And because that's what it was at Washington. I didn't study their offense super heavy this offseason, but I mean, I watched it enough to know that they were certainly operating under the premise that they were better than the opponent. And a lot of times they were.
Because of that, and I think this plays into the little bit of the offensive line debate is because he had the best offensive line in football.
Yeah.
So I think he could get away with that probably.
Well, then, and he also had, I don't know, top 3 quarterback in college football and three NFL receivers,
Exactly.
Like he was
all got drafted.
Yeah, he was operating at a talent, he had more talent than the other teams. And he even talked about this in the offseason. He was just like, he was aware of that. He was like, yeah, I mean, in college, we could pick out like, hey, their field safety's got bad hips. So we're just going to go at him today, score 40, get back home, So he seems to know, but the play calling definitely operates under like the premise of, well, we're just going to execute better than them. which is kind of arrogant, but what I would expect from someone who just came from a level in which his team was executing better than everyone on a weekly basis.
Let me go back to this, though, because the defense has been so good, especially the last 3 weeks, right? And I don't know, I guess we can circle it back to maybe the trade of Ernest Jones, certainly Leonard Williams coming on. I mean, there's I don't know what we would point to why they have been able to turn around. But they've made personnel changes, specifically with the linebackers. And maybe it's hey, we're 12 games into the season now. It's a complicated defense to learn just in terms of, what we do, what we show pre-snap to post-snap, and it's going to take a little bit of time. We were killing these guys in the first 9 weeks of the season, 8 weeks of the season, defensively, Mike Macdonald specifically. Now 3 weeks has changed what they've done. You're like, okay, that's why you got him, and he's great, and he's the savant that everyone thought. The offense has now sputtered the last few weeks. I'm just wondering, is it the timing of it? If it was reversed, where the offense was struggling in the beginning of the season, but now all of a sudden the last 3 games turning it on, do we have a different view of Ryan Grubb?
That's a good question. Sequencing is a huge part of the NFL, particularly when you look back. When you're in the moment. Yeah, sorry, not when you look back. When you're in the moment. I think that was huge in like the Let Russ Cook season. I remember I was talking to a coach from that staff.
Those were fun times.
Well, yeah, and it was a great time. And he was like, I asked him a question. He was like, I said, what happened in the second half of the season? And he was like, nothing happened. We played better defenses. He was like, go back and look at our games. He was like, the cornerback we got at the Vikings game, he sucked. We went out of a rookie corner from the Dolphins in week 4, and then in the back half of the year, we played the number 1 defense, the Rams, 3 times in 9 games. And so we fell off. Now, that was an oversimplification. That was an hour-long convo. I'm summarizing it. But that was a lesson for me in the sequencing sometimes can be very important. Who you play, when you play them, who you got, who you don't got, indoor, outdoor, all this stuff. So I do think that there is something to that. I do think the way each group has come out of the bye week has been very telling for me personally. I'm a big bye week guy. Because a lot of people think when you come off a bye or you go into your bye, you're like spending an extra week looking at your opponent. That's not true. That's why I don't read much into like this team coming off a bye records or unfairness. I think when you're talking about health, that does matter. But scheme wise, the players go back to their college towns, their hometowns. They're in Cabo. Even the assistant coaches are in Cabo. Like it's really a lot of like, what is your coach doing to self-scout your own guys? And then how can you fix that? And that's what Mike Macdonald did a great job of. His guys are super prepared in the run. They're connected. They're really just locked in and focused on holding their disguises, when to rotate their safeties, who's got what, who can trust the guy next to him. And the offense is still a lot of like, okay, we're under center a little bit more, but outside of that, we're not snapping the ball over Geno's head, because that guy retired. And it's pretty much we're throwing to Jackson a little bit more. I'm not seeing a drastic like shift, which I thought was needed. I thought it was needed on the goal line. I thought it was needed in the run game. It seems like they're doing a lot of the same stuff and getting almost even worse results. And that part post-bye is pretty concerning for me.
Okay. Let's switch some gears. Nwosu, is he going to play on Sunday against Arizona? Signs pointing towards he may?
I think it's good that he's been practicing. I'm not sure quite yet. It might be like a pain tolerance thing. Everybody's injury is different. DK was just talking about feeling like he had blood in his cleat. It turns out his foot was just numb, and it went unnumb, and then he played and he was fine. So everybody's a little different. We've seen guys miss multiple weeks because their toe hurts. And then we see guys like DK play through a broken foot. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure on Chenna. If he does get back, that would be great. I think the defense is really just locked in with or without him. Really, I can't really overstate like how well they're playing like fundamentally. When I look at a defense, this is why I was so high on those first 3 weeks. It wasn't that they just played the Dolphins or Broncos or whatever. It was they were doing the right things. They were in the right place. There wasn't a ton of coverage bust. They tackled super well, which is super easy to assess. I don't need to be a genius to know, hey, you guys suck at tackling or you don't. Like right now, they're excellent at tackling. You're not seeing a bunch of wide open dudes because of coverage stuff. Even in that last Cardinals game, like those guys, or the Niners game too. Juwan Jennings, he went off, but he had to make a ton of contested catches, in that game. Some of the bombs Kyler threw to people not named Trey McBride were contested stuff. You can live with that, at the end of the day. So I think the defense, if they get Chenna back, that'd be great, obviously, I really think that would help their pass rush, which is like very hit or miss right now. But overall, I'm not that. When I talk about optimism, that side of the ball, Puck, is rolling. When I watch the tape with them, I want to cry a tear of joy, man. It's what football. It's what it's supposed to look like, and it's what it looked like in Baltimore. There were some plays in the game against the Jets in particular, where he didn't know what was going on. He's like, am I getting blitzed or am I not? He was just getting the pick six, perfect example. He thought he was hot. He thought I had a wide open slant to Garrett because they're showing pressure. They dropped 8 dudes. And he threw out anyway and got picked off by a lineman.
Like you still feel like you're getting pressure. It's like the last play of the game. You got Kobe Bryant. What was it, the second or third time he's ever blitzed?
Fourth. It was the fourth time Kobe's rushed passer all year. Fourth time. Fourth and 15. Just pulled it out his bat. Oh my goodness. And that was only a 3-man rush, 3 or 4. But they looked like they were in. It was a 3-man rush, but they were in like cover 0, which is all out blitz. It was nuts, man. Mike, see, like these little scheme things, you can just tell. You can just tell when a coordinator is kind of locked in and his guys are prepared and know what they're doing, and you can tell they're holding the guys accountable too. Like Tariq kind of half-assed the 3rd and 26 check down or whatever. You can see Julian Love just screaming at him. Like, dude, no, that's not our standard. Get your ass to the ball, and that's good. That's what you want to see. You see a little bit of that from Geno. That's not kind of how he gets down, but sure. I feel like they could use somebody like that. I think on offense, maybe somebody particularly up front, just to really like, hey, yo, we're not to our standard. We're a great offense. Let's go be great. Doesn't mean demean guys and tell them they suck, but just a reminder of like, yo, we have a standard here. We're not doing it, because the defense, boy, Puck, they're doing that. they are rolling right now.
Fast and physical, and I think the 2 guys in the back end are playing some of the best football in Love and Witherspoon. They're making plays left and right. They're getting in people's faces. It's just there's this old attitude that's been missing for many years with that defense. I think those 2 guys, one is more brash about it, how he goes about it, but it's fun. It's right. It's the guy. He's like the Witherspoon is like the Sherman of it. And Love is more like the silent, Cam Chancellor type of player, and it's fun to watch. Special teams, which was just a freaking disaster against the Jets. What are they going to do on kickoff and punt return?
So this was a funny experience. My wife had the Sunday off, so she took my daughter to go play. So she didn't watch the game. So I was watching the highlights the other day in the living room, and she had never seen the game. Mm-hmm. So she is watching this in real time, all these special team snafus, and she is screaming at the TV. She's like, these guys suck. What is going on? She's like, there's no way. Like when LaVisca muffed the second one, she doesn't know that he picks it up and tries to. So she's experiencing that in real time. She's like, you got to be kidding me. She's like, you got to be kidding me. And that's how I felt in real time. My thing with the kick return in real time, actually, I was like, there's just no reason to put these guys back out there. I feel like that's actually a position where they have a ton of options. You can obviously put Tyler back there at kickoff. He'll be fine. You can put Kenny McIntosh back there. Trey Brown was a great returner at Oklahoma. Jackson can field punts. Like they just have an unlimited amount of options. I think it should be like when they cut LaVisca on Monday, I was like, yeah, people looked them down the roster and they're like, we're fine. We don't even got to sign a guy or anything, though. It was funny, Puck. You'll appreciate this as a coup. I ran into Aesop in the tunnel on Sunday. He's on the Jets practice squad.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, he's on the Jets practice squad.
Bring him back.
Signed him last week. Yeah, I was joking. I was like, dog, they could use you right now. I never understood why they cut him anyway. Because I actually thought he could give them something at the job. His regular job. You know what I mean? That's where I never really understood the commitment. LaVisca wasn't too bad before Sunday, but in D in particular, I was just like that Falcons game, for instance. I was like, you're down 1 million corners and he's still not playing? Mm-hmm. Well, if he's not giving you no juice at corner, he better be Devin Hester, for me to still roster you, because they were down. I pulled Josh Jobe off the practice squad, played him every snap, So in the Falcons game, I mean, Josh is good now, but that game really was eye-opening. I was like, if you don't trust him in this game, then you need a new returner. So, and I'm one of those guys. Kickers and punt returners, I view that job in a very binary sense. Kicker, did you make it or not? No, get out. Justin Tucker, I'd punt him to the moon. Same thing with the kicker. I don't care if you're Devin Hester mixed with Dante Hall, mixed with Deion Sanders. If you can't catch that ball, I am not putting you. You're not on the team. There's no way. So I think what I would do if they asked me, I would put Jackson at punt, and I would have Kenny McIntosh and Trey Brown be my kickoff returners. Trey be my primary guy.
Yeah, it appeared. I don't know if you. Well, maybe you watched the TV copy later.
I saw it. I saw what you referenced.
You saw what JSN was like. Put me back there.
And I think he's like one of their he practices punts, so he's not. I think he was listed there at the preseason. Actually, I got the thing in front of me now. Yeah, he's listed as their backup punt returner. Yeah, Jackson is. So I haven't asked Jackson. We're lip reading from TV, but that does look like that's what he was. I didn't ask him, but yeah, that looks like what he was saying. Yeah, I'd put him back there. I'm not really one of those people who worries too much about the injury of the punt guy. I really feel like the guys who are in more danger of the injury are the gunners. Those guys. Yeah, those guys are flying.
That's football suicide. Is what that is. That's
yeah. Well, Julian Love is on punt coverage, and I've been kind of scared
really?
of that. Yeah, he's on punt coverage still. Making $15 million a year, playing every snap on defense, and he's on So after the game, when he was asked, "Did you know Michael Dixon was hurt?" He was like, "Yeah, because I'm on the punt team." Which was a reminder. I knew that, but it was a reminder. Like, yo, he's still covering punts.
Yeah, get him out. I don't need him covering punts.
I'm scared of that. I'm more scared of that every week than I am.
I agree.
Jackson potentially he's flying a million, miles an hour. Going against the guy. He should stop doing that.
Speaking of Dixon, what's if he can't go to do who is it? Is it Myers?
They'd have to sign a punter. They have to sign a punter because Jason Jason can kick, but he's not like. It doesn't sound like he's super confident in it. It was funny. I was talking to Ken Walker after the game. I was like, "Did you know that Mike was Mike Dixon?" Yeah, he was like, "Nah." I was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, man." J-Mike just came up to me and was like, "Yo, man, I got to punt." And Ken was like, "Why are you punting?" I'm like, "Yo, because Mike is hurt." He's like, "Oh, damn, that sucks. We ain't got no punter." And Lakin Tomlinson didn't know it all. He was like, "I was like, why'd you think you were going for it on 4th and 6?" He was like, "I just thought we were dropping our nuts." I was like,
I read that. That was a good one.
I was like, "Yeah, no, you weren't, but hey, good for you guys." But yeah, they have to sign a punter or puck. I'm a team never kick.
Yeah, just come on, old Leach, let's go.
Yeah, go for or just have we do a Wazoo. We had our guy when our punter was hurt most of the year. We just had him doing the rugby kick. A kicker can do the rugby kick. I don't think now the standing one, maybe not, but the rugby kick, yeah, Jason can do that.
Yeah. Like what we do in youth football. Like we just drop our quarterback back farther than he kicks it.
Yeah, I mean,
it goes 10 yards, but whatever.
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with you lining up and going for it, and then just running some 4 verts, run some go balls. If the DB is dumb enough to catch it, it's an arm punt. To get a little
fair
DPI.
Point. That's a fair point. I didn't even think about that.
It would take some adjusting, I'm sure, for the DBs to not catch it. In that situation,
they want to get it so bad.
You want your stats. You think you can run it back for a touchdown because that's what you did when you were a kid or in college. Yeah, it would take at least a game or two for guys to be like, "Hey, no, let it drop." But you still have to worry like, "Oh, damn, DK's here." But yeah, they'd have to sign in all seriousness, they'd have to sign a punter. Okay. If Mike can't go. I talked to Dixon after the game. I was like, "Yo, what happened?" He was like, "I don't know, man. My back just seized up."
He's getting old, man.
That's what. Yeah, I was like. I'm thinking, man, you drafted in 2018. You're not that old for your back to just be spazzing up at however old.
Yeah, he's got more years for that. You wait till you get in your 40s, Dixon.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, dude. I was like, you all right? He's like, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully he got like a first class seat going back because I can't think of many things worse for your back than a 5.5 hour flight or whatever back to New York or back to Seattle from New York. That was probably awful. Hopefully he's okay because he's also their holder. I think that's also equally important. I think Brady Russell is their backup holder, but it's the reps thing. It takes one bad hold to change a game,
100%, man. 100%. Yeah. It's serious. I didn't. Yeah, that's a bigger deal than people realize. I mean, we went through it, college football, Washington State, because we had our punter was out all year long. Mateer was the holder, and Janikowski was having his worst season as a kicker. And I interviewed him, and he said, "Listen, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you just have to understand a fraction that ball is off, that you're used to it being held a certain way, means everything." And so just that little piece. So we'll see if Dixon can get back there. All right, Michael-Shawn Dugar, the Dugar Report, with us every Thursday. Co-host Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, of course, covers the Seahawks up there for the Athletic. What you mentioned the story a few times. When does the short yardage story come out on the Athletic?
So my editor actually just told me he's off this week, so I got to figure that out. But it'll be out. It'll be out this week. Okay. I want to say it should be tomorrow. Should be out. Okay. Should be out. Yeah, it should be out tomorrow. Make sure you definitely go check out Seahawks Man to Man. We just interviewed Teo Mackey, covers the Cardinals for the Arizona Republic.
Oh, great.
When we talked to him to preview this matchup. We're gonna have our film review coming out Friday evening, as we usually do, for I head out to Arizona on Saturday, and we also have our One Big Thing segment that is there with our guest preview show. Where I talked a little bit about what I was mentioning with Mike Macdonald and scheming, because man, I'm telling you guys, Mike Macdonald is in that groove. He's gonna get that little dad bump too. You know, he just had a kid. Like he's on a roll right. He's on a roll right now. So hopefully that keeps up. Shout out to his son Jack for knowing not to come on a Sunday. Oh,
yeah, good call.
Great. How about that? How about that? Yeah, congrats
that would
to
be the worst.
Mike and his wife Stephanie. Yeah, that'd have been tough. They were in New York. Fuck, imagine that. Get that call, man. You're in New York.
And you want to be there for it. You don't want to miss that.
And you got to. Nick Ballore had to deal with that last time they were in New York. He had to fly back the morning of the game to go catch his wife's. I think they had I don't know. I think a girl. But either way, that was that. I'm glad Mike got to be there for that. As someone who was just there for his daughter's birth, like missing that. I would never forgive myself for missing that. So.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You don't want to be there. You don't want to miss that. All right, we'll chat with you next week, and again, catch all of Mike's work up at the Athletic, athletic.com. Get a subscription, please. They've always got a deal. I'm telling you. Wait 1 week, they'll get another deal the next week.
That's right.
Get a deal there at the Athletic, and then go catch all of his work with our good buddy Christopher Kidd on the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, where you can find those podcasts anywhere, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Blue Wire, right? Correct? It's brought to you by Blue Wire?
Yep, Blue Wire Pods. Yep.
Okay. All right, Mike, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, sir.
Go Cougs.
There again, go Cougs as well. All right, Michael-Shawn Dugar again with us every week. You can catch it up on YouTube. Please subscribe there. Also on the other podcast audio platforms, Apple, Spotify. Just mentioned that again. Also, always up at pucksports.com.